Good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Kirsten Turner, and I'm the Associate Provost for Student and Academic Life here at UK. And I am so thrilled to welcome you all to our first series in our Esports initiative. And I'm really thrilled to welcome Erin Simon back to the university. Erin is a 2014 graduate in our Communications and Information Science College, and she's also a student athlete. You may know her, though, as host on Cheddar, and she is going to lead our panel tonight. We're going to talk for about another half hour to 45 minutes, and she's going to do the introductions of the panel, and I'm so pleased to welcome all of you, and streaming on Twitch, and I'm going to turn it over to Erin. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey, guys. Like she said, my name is Erin Ashley Simon. I'm a UK grad. Played soccer here back in the day, and let me tell you, it's been 6 years since I've been here, and this blows my mind. But it just shows you the progress that UK is making, not just for students overall, but just in when it comes to life, and especially when it comes to esports. And we have a lovely team from Gen.G here. If you guys are a little unaware of it, Gen.G has partnered with UK to help to establish a program here, not only to help facilitate in terms of just helping with the competitive esports component, but also the educational and career path journey as well. You'll have a chance to ask questions later on, but first we're going to kind of get into just an overall discussion about Gen.G. What does Gen.G do? What do they do as members of the organization and one of the top organizations in esports? And then also, what is Gen.G going to be doing specifically later on when it comes to the UK program? So I'm going to introduce every single one of them. Start off with Amanda King. Amanda is the talent influencer marketing manager for Gen.G Esports. Let's give it up for her. Yes. Then over to our left, we have Jordan Sherman, who's the head of sponsorship and revenue operations for Gen.G Esports. All right, yes. And then I'm gonna get your last name right. I got it, Julian. Julian Benishu.
Yes, that's right.
Woo! There we go. And he is lead product manager at UK as part of Gen.G. Yes. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow every single individual to basically go into a little more details in terms of what their title kind of requires them to do and what they specifically do at Gen.G. And then also just their previous experience when it comes to esports and gaming. I think the one thing that you guys will learn, especially with Gen.G, is that people come from all different backgrounds. There's some people that work at Gen.G that didn't start out in gaming, and now they're here in gaming and esports and on this a very established esports organization. So Amanda, I'm gonna start with you, and then you guys can take it from here.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm Amanda again. I am the talent marketing manager at Gen.G. I've been with Gen.G since May of last year. I've been in gaming for about 8 years now, starting off as a wide-eyed freelancer in community management. I've worked for companies such as Red Bull. I worked for Perfect World Entertainment, which is a gaming publisher, as well as Razer, which is a PC peripheral company. And then that has since led me to Gen.G. At Gen.G, as a talent marketing manager, I actually work with all of our content creators and players, largely our content creators. And those are the folks that you find streaming on Twitch or making YouTube videos. So I help them work on their content, empower them to, work and do great streams, as well as working along with some of our sponsors.
Hey everyone, my name's Jordan Sherman. I'm head of partnerships at Gen.G. And in my role, my capacity, I've always been on the business side. I actually come from traditional sports. I worked at Major League Baseball in the league office for 6 years, and then I worked for the LA Clippers in Los Angeles before joining Gen.G. And my role here on the team is to connect brands to the esports space. You see above us is a photo of our women's Fortnite team, which is partnered with Bumble, which is a leading women's empowerment app for friendship, dating, and networking. And also over the past year, I've been working on this relationship with the University of Kentucky, which we're really excited about because it's the first of its kind. A lot of esports teams are focused primarily on just competitive operations. And we're going to walk you through a little bit our vision for what UK can be. But in a nutshell, we want to build community around esports and gaming here in Lexington. We have great partners with the University of Kentucky and with JMI helping us build this platform. A lot of time and thought has gone into it. And we have a really nice roadmap, I think, over the next few years of building something special here. But also for this session, we want it to be really interactive and open with the audience. A lot of conversation and engagement after we kind of tell a little bit of a framework, because we want to hear from you guys, what type of platforms do you want to see built, and what's the best way to really activate this long term. We started today, we did a Twitch stream on the University of KY Twitch page, the first time ever, which was great. Erin was the host of that too. And I think it's really exciting to see UK is a special university where the administration and the partners are really aligned in making this special and doing it from a student perspective. So now it's kind of like we're kind of like giving the keys to the students, and now we want the students to kind of get behind the wheel and help us build it. So today we're really excited to be here and start that process.
Hi guys, my name is Julian. I am the Partnerships Account Manager for Gen.G, working specifically on UK as well. I come from a traditional media background, worked with music acts at William Morris Endeavor and IMG, eventually moved to the esports side at IMG, where we represented a bunch of different teams and influencers and people like that. Eventually, I moved to working for a company that was both producing a video game and running events and helping create a department for MGM Resorts in Las Vegas, where they are making a big push into esports and trying to get all esports and gaming stuff related there. Been working with a bunch of different partners and clients since I moved to a company called Super League, and now eventually at Gen.G. So excited to have joined the team. Looking forward to everything that's going to happen with the UK in the future, and I think we have some great stuff planned.
Yes, and it's great that you have someone from traditional media, music, traditional sports and gaming, and journalism. It just shows you that there's so many different paths that you can take in esports and gaming. And I know that, you know, when it comes to how traditional media presents esports, it focuses a lot more on the competitive scene, but as you can see, there is a career path in this space as well. So we broke down a little bit about what each and every one of them does, but you know what? We still need to break down Gen.G and what Gen.G is and what they're currently doing and what they plan on doing. So we actually have a 2-minute video for you guys that we're going to be playing. All right, let's give it up for that video. So as you guys saw, Gen.G is involved in so many different sectors of esports, whether it is Fortnite, PUBG, Apex, and etc. And then also the great thing with Gen.G too is that they have such a great hold, especially when it comes to internationally in South Korea and the Asian market. And it's so great that they're bringing these opportunities and bringing this awareness over into Kentucky and more specifically UK. So I know they have a slideshow that will have some little more information. And like I said, you have any questions, right after the slideshow, we're gonna get into a Q&A component. And so you'll be able to ask any and all questions, whether it's individually or collectively. So just hold on a bit, and I'm gonna let Jordan take it from here.
Cool. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick little run through of the company just to give a little bit more background than the video gave. So this is our company, Gen.G. We're a top-ranked esports company in the world. We have a couple really big investors and partnerships. One of our biggest partnerships is with Bumble, which we talked about a minute ago. And yesterday we just announced our name for the NBA 2K League. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a framework, the NBA has an esports league. It has 23 NBA teams in it. Starting this spring, Gen.G will be the first esports endemic into the league. So you'll see Gen.G against the LA Lakers, against the Detroit Pistons. We're trying to think of using ways to actually bring our competitive teams not only to be in the biggest leagues like Overwatch and League of Legends, but also thinking about what are some unique leagues that people don't expect us to be in. We're also going really big, not just in competitive operations, but also in this idea of community and education. So that's where we see UK really existing. We have a fully integrated academic program in Asia, where we have an esports academy for high school students who go to a private school for 6 hours a day and then come to an esports academy for 2 hours of the day. And then we are actually going to be working with those students and bringing them to the United States for college programs. And then also what we're doing here is a major strategic partnerships with the University of Kentucky, not just for active students. We want you guys to think of this partnership in 3 buckets. Number 1 is prospective students. So what is the University of Kentucky, what is Lexington doing to actually attract new students who want gaming to be a really big part of their college experience? How are we actually recruiting them and bringing them to the university? And not just for competitive. It's really supposed to be about community. How can I actually come to a university and make friends through gaming? How can I actually become more social, more involved in school causes through gaming? Which, for someone like Erin or maybe some people in the competitive group, seems like second nature. But for a lot of people, that framework's never really been established before. It's maybe been competitive, or you kind of game and that's like a personal thing. What we want to do is really create events like this and opportunities for the students of UK to have an even better experience through gaming. And then the third piece of it is alumni. So once you graduate from UK, or if you've already graduated from UK, how can we actually create this program so you can be a part of it here in Lexington? Or if you've decided to move away from Lexington, you went to New York or San Francisco or Chicago, what type of events can we create for you as a UK alum that uses gaming as a through line, where now you're reconnected to your university, you're meeting other people that maybe you didn't meet as a student, and gaming is really the catalyst for all that. This is us. We kind of covered it a little bit, but competitive operations is really important to us. These are the different teams that we have in our org. But overall, our company mission is helping young people get ahead through games. So our vision here is that gaming can be done from the time you're 8, 9 years old all the way to you're 80, 90 years old. And what happens throughout that whole experience is the development of people. So what does gaming mean when you're in high school, when you're in college, when you start a family, maybe when your kids like gaming? That type of idea of like, how do you actually get a better career, better health, better relationships? What does winning mean? What is the development of people? And when you understand that lifespan of how we view gaming, you can understand why a partnership with UK would make sense. The university is very invested in the holistic development of its people. What are you like when you start as a freshman, and what are you like when you end up as a senior, and when you go off and have those ties to the university? We want to really merge those two through gaming. So we want you to come of age. We want to be your passport abroad. So we were talking to a couple of people before, talking about going to League of Legends split in Korea. What does that look like for students who want to experience esports abroad, or already people who are abroad who want to come to Lexington? Creating that bridge and using gaming as a way to do so gives us an unbelievable access that we've never had before. This is just some competitive success about us. Our team won the PUBG championships in October. Our women's Fortnite team, which we'll get into, this was very, very cool. So we started the first all-women's Fortnite team, and literally it was us going on Twitch and trying to find the best women Fortnite players we could find, and we would call them up and say, hey, can we talk to your parents? We think maybe you could be the best Fortnite player. We need you to move to Los Angeles. And they would just hang up the phone, basically. So we had to travel and recruit them. We went to Boston, St. Louis, San Francisco to get these players and bring them onto our team. And we thought they were good. We had recruited them. We brought them into our training system, into our facility in Playa Vista. And then this September, about a year after she started, Tina Reyes was invited to Twitch Rivals at TwitchCon, and she won first place and she won MVP. So this was the first time ever that a woman has won a co-ed Fortnite competitive tournament. So kind of let that sink in for a second. Within 1 year, someone who went from, quite frankly, we were nervous about the internet connection in our house to being in our facility and winning and setting the standard. And what Tina says is, we want to bring her to campus so you guys can meet her, but you can look at her and stream. She never really had the role models that she wanted growing up as a woman player. So I think what we really want to do as part of this partnership with Kentucky is really help these people develop, help bring them to the top, and how do they pay it forward for the next generation? And when you look at that career arc, it can happen really quickly. And I think that's what's most exciting. We're not talking about like a 20-year ramp up here. In esports, the way this digital information is being transferred, it can happen even in a year. So this is how we launched the partnership. It got over 300 million views. People loved it, and it was a really big message. And you're seeing really big publications talking about esports now. Forbes, Esports Observer, CNBC. So these types of partnerships like we do with Kentucky and otherwise really get a lot of media attention and promotion. League of Legends, we're favored to return to the 2020 World Championships. I'm sure we have a lot of League of Legends fans in here. And then we're doing our Seoul Dynasty, which is the Overwatch League, is going to be in Seoul this year. So for the first time ever, we're doing homestands. So when Seoul plays Boston, for example, in the Overwatch League, we are going to be playing either in Seoul or in Boston. When we play New York, we're going to be traveling there. So we're actually taking real traditional sports principles and putting them into esports. And then CSGO, we just launched a CSGO roster as well. So that's a new league that's starting up in the United States. Probably a lot of people interested in CSGO. Talked about the NBA 2K League. This was announced yesterday, but a really big piece of our company. And then academies in Asia. So we're going to scale this program. Right now it's in Korea, but we're going to scale it to China and Indonesia. These are all students, very smart students, very focused on academics, into esports, not necessarily as competitive, but want to use it, again, as their passport to games. So how do we start connecting people in the US and in Asia on these types of programs is one of the big things we're focused on as a company. And now we get to the University of Kentucky. So when we first announced the partnership with Kentucky, because of all the other stuff you just saw in the presentation, a lot of people probably thought, what is this? What's it all about? But when you start looking at it, through, like I was saying, perspective, current, and alumni, and you start thinking of, okay, the development of people through games, you kind of see that an esports company and a university have a lot in common. What we're talking about is community, not rivalry. So while we want to support the competitive operations and help there, this isn't just for someone who's like a top-level League of Legends player. This is from anyone of any age who's connected to the University of Kentucky who wants to make new friends or socialize or develop a community through gaming. We've had some really big accomplishments so far with our partners JMI and UK. For example, something that we did was UK played MSU at the Garden in New York. And what we did was a gaming activation in the Samsung space where we invited Kentucky alum and media to actually come 2 hours before the game to a gaming panel very similar to this. And all of a sudden what we started doing was actually engaging UK alumni in a way that was surrounding the athletics but done through gaming. So I say that to a lot of you with the notion of just because whenever you're done with UK doesn't mean you're necessarily done with this program, and you should be really excited about that. There's potential to stay close with your friends and with other people at UK through gaming once you're done. Some other things that we're building that we would love your feedback on today, and we're going to talk about. We launched the UK Twitch channel 2 hours ago. It was great. And we want to do a lot more, integrating it into athletics, integrating it into esports and students, and really have that program by students. We want to bring our professional teams and our content creators to campus. We want to integrate with Dance Blue and the Kentucky Children's Hospital. We want to do more speaker series like this, and a bunch of different ideas like that we have, especially for cross-continent connection. And then in media, what's really cool about this too is everything that we're doing here in Kentucky is so unique and so new. I mean, Erin works for Cheddar, who covered this story. We got over 75 million impressions. So we're in this like really unique period right now where people want to know what we're doing and people are really interested. And I think that's both a sense of responsibility we have, but also a huge opportunity to build something really unique, because the microphone we have to tell this story is awesome. And people are looking to us for what is the model for college esports and how do you create community. So I say all that, this kind of gives like the overview of everything that we do, but it ends there. Hopefully that was a good overview for everybody.
It was. I love that cheddar clipping you got
Of
over
course.
there. It made me smile a little bit. But yeah, no, let's give it up for Jordan. That was a great presentation. All right. So I know that was probably a lot of information for some people, and for others, you guys probably knew a lot of what Gen.G did. And that's a great thing about this event, is that we have varying different individuals who either have a whole lot of knowledge of esports, or you guys are just learning for the first time. And more importantly, I think overall, we just want to end this event with having everyone on the same kind of level playing field in the sense, and also just being excited for what Gen.G is going to be bringing to UK, and what UK can actually bring to Gen.G as well. So right now, we're going to open it up for any Q&As. We do have microphones over here. I guess, should we have it? So, like, do you want me to pick the person, or do you want to just? Okay. So, does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
This question's for Erin. Just started off with a fun one. What's your favorite Twitch emote?
Ooh. Probably because since my boss is probably watching the stream, I'm gonna go with the cheddar logo. That is my most favorite emote, and I'm actually an emote too. So what am I saying? I'm my favorite emote. So I'm gonna go with that answer. All right. Any other questions? Come, guys. Don't be shy. Got one all the way back there.
Hey, so Erin put me on the spot earlier on the stream, so I'm gonna put everybody else on the spot too. Favorite game of the decade?
Easy for me. Last of Us, my favorite game of the decade. Probably my favorite game of all time. So not my most played. My most played would be League of Legends. Though, as the earlier stream mentioned, I have been playing Slay the Spire recently, and it's been taking up way too much of my time. So I need to probably uninstall that.
Mine is, I would say mine would be Fortnite, and specifically because I've been really connected with the Fortnite team, but also when we went to Austin to do a presentation a couple months ago, there's a brand new bar that opened that's an esports bar. So instead of having like sports on TV, they have video game controllers, and you can actually like, hang out and play. And I played the game of my life and finished in second place, and there was like a couple people watching me, and it was an amazing experience. So that was my highlight.
Okay, here's the thing.
Disclaimer.
I was watching the Twitch stream earlier, so I am going to say Persona 5 because I absolutely love Persona 5. And I do have, like 4 or 5 Persona statues between Persona 4 and Persona 5. So I am going to say Persona 5, but for the sake of also having watched the stream, I also really enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn, and I named my dog after it. So.
Wow.
Yes.
It's so, listen, when you said Persona 5, I lit up because I actually told him
Yes.
to go play Persona 5 because he's very much into storytelling. And I was like, oh, the storyline for Persona 5 is amazing.
It
It's
is.
very far out there.
Here's second vouch for that. You do have to go play Persona 5
Yes.
sometime after this
You
panel.
do. And also, I think it's discounted on console too. So
I think it's like $20.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's discounted. This.
I only got through three
Alright,
quarters of
Atlas.
it. I'm sorry. I just couldn't finish it.
Oh,
You need to
man.
get off this panel.
That's a good question because for part of the decade, I wasn't able to play video games because I was playing soccer here. So there's a certain amount of video games I wasn't able to play, but just because of the impact and how much it's really, honestly, I would also say Fortnite, and not because I play it. I'll admit I don't really like Fortnite. I'll be honest. But Fortnite really helped to change the landscape, especially when it comes to the gaming industry, in the sense that it's a free to play and it is super profitable. And it really mixed things up in that capacity. And I also think that it's going to help to mix things up even more when it comes to the esports scene, especially with how much money that they can put behind prize pools. And I feel like because they have Nate Nanzer, who used to be the commissioner for Overwatch League, I feel like having someone who's helped to build an esports league, helping with the esports infrastructure, I think having that coupled together makes it kind of a powerhouse for the next, honestly, it could be even 5 to 10 years that it could be a powerhouse in the scene. So that's my answer.
You mentioned that Gen.G was looking for stuff from UK. What are they currently looking for from the current gamers of UK?
And I'm very interested in everyone's thoughts on this. I think for starters, what we need to do, we started an email so we could actually have direct communication with the students, with UK and through JMI. And I think what we'd love to know is your opinions on the best way to build community. We have some ideas on how to do it through a mixture of what we're going to build on Twitch and events on campus. But we know that a lot what like UK Esports is doing is already has that type of community, and we don't want to come in and take it over and say how it's done. We respect and recognize that it always has to be student driven, and I think that's why a lot of these things really require the input of students and thought process on it and an open dialogue and communication on it. So that's why we're kind of hoping, we haven't had that opportunity just yet, and we're kind of hoping today was like the first big step in that direction. And if you have any ideas right now, feel free.
I think we're also, there is definitely an element that we want to bring it, to the university and have them involved. But I also think that there's an element of just having Kentucky and Lexington involved as well, trying to bring people out, whether it's alumni, people who are, stream game from Lexington. We've talked to some people today who are not necessarily affiliated with the university, but are interested in everything that's going on. And so we're just trying to spread that message that this is a place where we want to build a community of gaming, where we want everybody who's interested in the wider Kentucky area to feel like UK is a friendly space where everybody can come and get what they're looking for out of the gaming space.
To add to that, one of the reasons that I came to Gen.G is because we focus, everybody now me, focuses a lot on collaboration. So just kind of to hype that up, it's very important that we collaborate with everyone, no matter what partnership we're in. And for instance, I'm on the side of content creators. I'd love to know who in UK, either alumni or currently in school, or even just in Lexington, Kentucky in general, is already streaming and already on Twitch and YouTube and creating content.
Yeah, and I would add inclusion too. Collaboration and inclusion. How do we get the most people from the most clubs and from the most areas of the university to feel like this is a program for them?
Yeah, I definitely think inclusion is that important word. We talk about diversity in gaming and esports a lot. Sometimes I feel like it's a little bit of a buzzword, but inclusion is that key component that's going to help to diversify this industry in so many different ways. So we actually have a question from the Twitch chat. Says, in terms of us, what do they think about universities accepting esports as a true degree?
I think esports as a degree is a little bit broad. I would say that esports business as a degree definitely has a lot of value that I know that I would have loved to have taken when I was at school. Just having worked in the space now for a little bit, there's certain things that you don't really know. And we also kind of saw this panel as an opportunity for students to ask if there are any sort of career questions you have, because one of the questions I get the most often is oh, you work in esports, you work for an esports team, you work for an esports org, how did you get there? I have no idea how to get there. It's my dream, it's what I want. And I took some steps, but the honest answer is that it was just being knowledgeable and being passionate about the space and just looking for opportunities. So I think in terms of universities offering that, I think it has a lot of value, and it gets access to the industry in a way that's not really being done right now. There isn't a simple path. If I want to work in music, for example, when I was working in music at WME, a lot of people had music business degrees that came to the university. It's just not something that's offered, but I think it has a lot of value, and I think it would be very popular.
I think also when it comes to esports degrees, I think if anything, those degrees help more with the networking aspect of it. The fact that a lot of different companies now know that, you know, certain universities have degrees when it comes to esports, they will pay attention more to those universities. And I guess I can speak more from the journalism and media perspective. Honestly, a lot of the skill sets that I am utilizing in this space, I've gotten from just the regular journalism program here at UK. I mean, my professor, Buck Ryan here, he taught me journalism 101, and a lot of stuff that he taught me, I'm applying to what I'm doing in the career space. So I think that a lot of the skill sets that will be implemented within these esports degrees, they're already classes and skill sets that some of the university has. It's just about kind of fine-tuning it and adding more to it and also developing that networking opportunity. And I think also another thing too is even though we have these esports degrees, it's so important for you guys to get involved in the scene as well. There's so many different intangibles and different things that you will only know if you're in the community itself. So esports degree is important to have, but getting involved with the likes of Gen.G and getting involved, you know, whether it's going to, like if you're someone who's interested in production, go to a league competition at least once if you can. Like seeing stuff, you'll be able to see a lot behind the scenes stuff. And a lot of times when you go to these events, you can just go up to several people from different companies and just introduce yourself and connect that way. The esports community is amazing in that capacity. So I think that having this esports degree is great in terms of spotlighting the colleges. But then it's, you know, it's important for the students themselves to also get involved beyond just the degree in order to really elevate within this industry.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I've noticed that coming from traditional sports. Like, you can't DM an NBA player and expect to, like, see them or talk to them. It's just not the same format. So no matter what path you're in, if the university decides to go down the path of a degree, that's great, but you shouldn't feel limited no matter what you've studied if you want to get involved in gaming from a career perspective or even just from a fun perspective. I think what we look at as a company when we're hiring people is exactly what you said. What have you done? When have you put yourself out there? What have you helped build a community? Have you started something? Have you gone to an event? Have you reached out to someone? Could you even, you know, some universities are doing Twitch streaming classes. I think that's a huge step in the right direction. Or can you just go on your own Twitch page and just live vlog wherever you are? I think when people just kind of show that a little bit of initiative, that always perks their ear up. And we're not expecting, I mean, Amanda is probably a little bit different for like specific content creators because the followership is big. But just like interest in a company, we just want people who aren't scared to take a try at something. What would you say for content creators, Amanda?
I mean, I think that's like the biggest thing is taking a try at something. I think that content creators, it's a pretty big world out there. There's a lot of people that are gaming, and it's really important that you find your like niche or your special piece of content and really kind of lean on that. And I think that, you know, you see a lot of online personalities that are completely different. For instance, like Dr. Disrespect or something like that, where someone creates a persona of what they are online versus who they are in real life, and that's kind of his thing, is acting like a general sergeant, more or less. And I think that it's really something that I'm looking for, and I think that a lot of other people that are in my position, talent marketing managers, are looking for is what is your like special sauce, I guess is the best way to put it. Yes, follower count is important, viewership is important, but what makes you you, and how can we help empower you?
Yeah, one more thing I would add on that is, you know, we talked to a lot of people today who are seniors who are graduating in a couple months, and I think it would be really cool and unique if you started highlighting a little bit more like what your day-to-day life was like as a student here at UK. You know, at worst case scenario, it's a great memento for you down the road. In best case scenario, it's actually something that can help the University of Kentucky bring in new students, maybe it becomes a piece of content that kind of like makes sense and helps develop a platform. We're starting to see that a lot on YouTube and Twitch. People are showing like their day-to-day, what it's like at a university, and that's how people are getting their information, not from highly produced series, but more like real user-generated content from students.
And also from a content standpoint for media, you can start that now. You know, I actually got my career within esports and gaming broadcasting just from doing a podcast and filming myself. I think that, you know, when it comes to this scene, it doesn't really necessarily take the most traditional pathway that we see with some other traditional media. And then another thing too with that, if you're not utilizing LinkedIn, LinkedIn's actually really great when it comes to connecting with esports and gaming. The hashtag esports is actually growing. And especially if you're someone who's super knowledgeable of specific games or leagues or anything like that, it's right now is the perfect time to actually be showcasing that, because a lot of companies are trying to learn about esports and gaming and learn about even like the program here or Gen.G and et cetera. So if you utilize LinkedIn, I can tell you, you will get job opportunities or people inquiring at least. I've gotten some job opportunities just from it. So important that you guys utilize LinkedIn. And you have also other social media platforms. You can start reporting different leagues and et cetera. And the more consistent you are, the leagues will eventually know who you are. And the community, if you're involved in the community, they'll eventually know who you are. And when it goes to like recruiting for media, especially if we're trying to find someone to come on as a guest, we're always trying to find, okay, who's the expert in this league or this game or anything like that. So you don't have to wait until after college to be known as an expert or to be known as someone who is covering this league. You can actually start that now, and that's the great thing about esports and gaming. It's not an age restriction in terms of media work. You can actually start that stuff now.
I think another key word you hit there was consistency, too. Is just making sure that even if the content that you're working on doesn't end up being what you want it to be at the end. Like, I also came from a podcasting world. I don't podcast anymore, but it was somewhere we released an episode every week. We recorded it on Sunday. It came out on Monday, like that kind of thing. Everyone knew when to expect it. It didn't end up being the path that I ended up choosing ultimately. I tried streaming for a little bit. That wasn't for me either. I realized that I was more interested in helping like empower and up-level other people than being in the spotlight and on camera. I feel the biggest thing is, or one of the other bigger things is consistency, is knowing I know when I can find you and I'm ready to watch your stream or I'm ready to follow your posts or your Instagram, whatever your platform may be. That's a huge one.
Yes. All right. Another question up there? Sorry, I got you after. I saw your hand right after. I got you.
Great to get your name, too.
Jason. Okay, so this question is more or less based on personal experience. For me, it's sort of difficult to find sort of these sort of competitive scenes in North America, due to the fact that some of the major ones, like Overwatch or League of Legends, tend to focus more on their tournaments based on sort of like their mainline path to pro, whether it be like when it comes to Overwatch, would it be Open Division or Trials, and League of Legends, where they have their basic academy teams, collegiates, and all that. And you rarely see any other routes besides that, other than a couple of community tournaments that seem to be overlooked. So what my question is, how would a partnership with the University of Kentucky and Gen.G sort of benefit that sort of path to pro for people who want to get into that sort of competitive scene?
Probably the best question for our general manager, who's not here. His name is Nate Stans, who's in charge of finding that. But it is something that we're thinking of as well. We haven't necessarily tied our competitive we haven't necessarily tied UK competitive players into a funnel to be Gen.G players. We're thinking of it a little bit wider for like what our academy system could look like in the United States and in Asia. I think a lot of organizations are thinking about that, like what is the path to pro? Like traditional sports like NFL and MLB and NBA are able to use the college system to feed up there. But that's a system that's been in place for like 50 years already, and this is still really, really new. So it's something we're thinking about. We don't have like the fundamentals or the infrastructure in place there right now. But the idea of how do you actually find talent that's not just good in games, but also talent that'll work well together and play well together, that's something that we're investing a lot of time and resources and also technology to find out. So we're developing more.
I would say that for now, the collegiate esports scene is still developing in a lot of ways. And I mean, Riot sees that, a lot of different places see that, and hopefully one day there can be a more firm path to pro. You know, in our conversations with UK, we've kind of talked about how, you know, the competitive side of collegiate esports is definitely growing, and we're going to keep working with it to make sure it gets bigger. But for now, we're really just looking to like bring gaming into a bigger like scene on in the college campuses and make sure that everybody is aware of these things that are going on. And I think that it will develop naturally to have a more path to pro atmosphere as these leagues start to see, for example, all these college students who are being very competitive and growing their skill sets. Eventually they will start feeding into these systems naturally, and a more natural system will develop. In terms of what Gen.G is doing, work by like promoting a gaming atmosphere that and some, you know, friendly competitive nature and all of that, eventually we will get a higher quality of player, and that will start feeding in. The other aspect that I will say is we kind of in some talks already, but we have some ideas as well about how like Pathway to Pro and UK and Collegiate can start working together in the future that I'm sure we'll be announcing soon.
Yeah, and then even talking outside of just Gen.G and UK, like they were saying, there's no established path yet. I mean, there are companies like PlayVersus and a few others that are starting to implement those journey pathways. More specifically right now, the journey pathway to the collegiate scene. Even the leagues themselves are trying to fine-tune that process a little bit more. You know, there are, and I would say more so in North America. I mean, obviously in some of the other regions, they have academies and et cetera that kind of help and assist in that in some capacity. But even still, like, think about it. Like, in terms of the structuring of esports and the formatting of esports, that concept is actually fairly new. Esports has been around for decades, right? The earliest the competitive scenes like Quake, you even have Halo and etc. But in terms of like certain leagues that are starting to take on similar formats of traditional sports, that's only been happening like more recently. Like the homestand changes only happened within the last like what, year, 2, maybe 3. But what we're starting to see is the same people who know the pathway to pro for traditional sports and know everything from like regionalization, marketing, and et cetera are now integrating over into esports. Esports was pretty much run by just gamers and very passionate people within the space, but there is still that foundational structure and platform foundation that hasn't really been established that we're starting to see it. It's going to be happening within the next few years. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be clean, but Gen.G's looking at helping to develop it. All the other orgs, Riot Games as well. Riot Games is investing in collegiate esports. So everyone is kind of trying to like figure that out. It's going to happen, but it's going to be a steady process. I think also more importantly is establishing that career pipeline is only going to help to expedite that process. Having diverse perspectives and feedback is only going to make that path to pro more substantial, more profitable, and a lot more efficient. So I think that is the most important thing is sustainability and efficiency. Because everything's like, for some people, like everything like blowing up, esports is kind of like blowing up in a certain component, but it's been like 20 years to get to this point about. So it'll get there eventually. I wouldn't say don't lose hope on it, but within the next like few years, I don't think we're gonna have it be completely set yet.
And also one of the accomplishments of this platform so far is we've worked with UK. So now the Kentucky High School Athletic Association, the championships for esports are going to be happening here in Lexington. So that was a really big win for us as well, because we want, for the prospective students that are looking at where they want to go to school, we want them to see like the ultimate top of the pyramid championship for high school esports happens here in Lexington and nowhere else. So we think steps like that will help us create that path to pro.
And the last thing I would say real quick is that the path to pro doesn't also necessarily have to just be about competitive esports as a player. Just look at Erin. She took a path to pro. She's a professional in the esports space. And that's something that we're also trying to build here. It's not just about being a competitive gamer. It's about, you know, a path to being in the industry and being involved.
Hi, my name is Alex. I actually am a staff member at UK. I work at the healthcare side of IT, and I've kind of got a two-part question. You mentioned making it attractive. Esports needs to be attractive, so it has to be a spectacle. So you got to have the physical space, right? The infrastructure. Being an IT person, I'm interested in the infrastructure of it. So I don't know if you guys know the details or the plans around space or that. I heard something about the Kennedy space, but I'm kind of just being introduced to this today. So is that anything anybody can divulge? You're looking at me like,
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
Right here.
Pastor, we were prepared for that question.
Come up. You want to come sit here?
On the kind of street side of the building will be an esports arena that we've worked really closely with our student group and been looking at kind of the best in show type of place for that. We will also have an innovation space and we'll also have some retail space as well, but kind of the pinnacle piece or the landmark piece will be an esports arena for community use as well as for UK use. So we're in the process of building that.
Do you have a second part as well, or?
Yeah.
well, I guess I might actually have to talk to you about that, maybe in a separate conversation in terms of getting involved in that.
All right, so kind of a two-part question here as well. So I'm a tournament organizer for a organization down south. We run in conjunction with Berea College. And Berea College already has a large pre-existing player base of specifically Smash Ultimate players. And we do host regular tournaments for those, but a lot of our player base at the moment is currently, there's either seniors or super seniors, and they're about to graduate out this semester. So my question is kind of two-part. And the first part is, college-wise, what can we do to make it attractive to a college student that has a 15 credit hour a week schedule, doing homework till 2 in the morning? What can we make, how can we make events attractive to them to promote events that they'll stay in our community for and make them interested in the community in terms of helping promote esports and making esports connections both locally and traveling out of region to other events such as UK, up in Louisville, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's something that we're thinking about too. I think the easiest way to answer that is to plan ahead and try to build from strengths. So for example, something that we're thinking about here at UK is looking at the full calendar of events and trying to piggyback off other things that are happening on campus where students either might be available or can plan ahead. For example, UK is obviously, basketball is a huge part of this university, and Selection Sunday is the day where the teams get selected to go into the event. So can we do something leading up to that day or maybe the day after where students know and we can kind of teach the behavior of, okay, this big event's happening and then the next day is esports. We did that in New York where we kind of did something right before the event that was really successful, and we were able to kind of piggyback a little bit about what the school's already doing. The second is thinking of really big events that are successful and have lead time. So I don't know if you're familiar with Smash Pit, but Pitt does like one of the biggest, is the 9th or 10th year already, where they do it in April, and it's known that like that is the day where all the Smash people get together for like the large tournament. And then if you have that date, you can not only just build up to it, but you can kind of teach behaviors to people to prepare for it in terms of like getting ready for it or traveling in for it. I think in general, esports doesn't have enough advanced planning, and that's something that we're really focused on too, is like how do we create a schedule for UK students where you kind of know all the different esports events that are happening on campus 3 and 4 months in advance. So therefore you can plan around them. So therefore we can get bigger turnout and participation and get more people involved.
The other part about it is if you plan that far in advance, a lot of times you can get some involvement from like bigger organizations or other groups like that. So we're kind of hoping as we continue to move forward that we get some other organizations involved from the UK campus. So.
Yeah, and from a content standpoint, this is something similar that we do at Cheddar. For those who cannot go to those activations, to keep them kind of in loop, set specific days that they know every Wednesday you're going to announce an event. Every Thursday is Q&A, or you get an industry person to come and speak to, I guess, the students, or every, the first Thursday of the month, you're going to have like a big tournament. Just make sure, have that consistency. I think consistency is like the biggest and most important component, but make sure you have the consistency and you set those specific days so that they know at the first Thursday of the month, there's always something. If they miss an event, they know that every Wednesday is an announcement Wednesday. So making sure from a content standpoint that you train them, just the same way that streamers train their viewers to come and see them, content-wise, you train them as well to come check the content online if they can't be there during those live tournaments or activations. You had a second part, didn't you? Oh, that's all right. So you can say it out loud.
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot. I think when you're talking, a lot of businesses are interested in getting involved in esports, but don't know how, or maybe a little bit nervous to do it. So I think the key is first making it like really understandable and easy. So I think starting with an event, like let's go back to Smash Pit, for example. Being able to say like, that is our Super Bowl, that is our biggest event. Here's what the stream looks like. Here's how many viewers we think we're gonna get. Here's where you can be integrated. Like showing them a common understanding, like finding the common ground with the brand is the hardest thing to do. But once you kind of get there and kind of explain, oh, it's like the NBA, or oh, it's like watching this television program, or it's like a podcast that you see online, getting through those types of things is the hardest part. So a lot of people hear things like Twitch or live streaming and immediately they don't understand it, so therefore they don't want to do it. So really being able to explain it and not taking it for granted, because you know the operations, not taking that for granted and being able to talk them through it. It's like trying to talk to someone who's never seen American football and explain the rules. It would be very, very hard, even though it comes second nature to a lot of people now. And if you think about it that way and kind of lay it out, like here's the viewership, here's what you're gonna get, here's the big dates that are important, here's how you access it, here's the audience that sees it. That's how they're used to being involved in partnerships and activation. Here's what you can do on set. Here's the people you're going to meet. That helps kind of level the playing field.
All right, let's give it up for Gen.G, guys. All right. So we do have people that were watching our panelists via Twitch, and we actually have a winner who's going to get a Gen.G windbreaker. Winner is at Fizzy Pine. So at Fizzy Pine on Twitch, you have won a lovely Gen.G windbreaker winner. Someone from the UK staff will make sure that you get it. Now we're about to wrap it up. I know some of you may have had questions, but that's okay. There will be time after to ask anyone here any specific questions you have. And if not, you can always get their contact information and speak with them at a later time. But guys, this was amazing. Let's give it up another time. All right. Perfect.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.